Bueno, para ustedes que me siguen en las redes sociales y que escuchan mi programa de radio, han seguido mi trayectoria, saben que yo soy locutor, pero de profesión desde niño siempre he sido policía. Me convertí en policía a los 19 años de edad. Tuve la bendición de cruzarme en las comunicaciones, en la radio, que ha sido una carrera totalmente distinta, pero siempre me he mantenido como policía reservista. Y en los tiempos actuales, algo que me ha llamado muchísimo la atención, y si me sigues en las redes sociales, vuelvo y repito, hablo un montón de la salud mental de nuestros oficiales y de los estrés y el estrés postraumático, el PTSD, como le dicen en inglés, de nuestros first responders, bomberos y policías. Cosas que ven a diario, el estrés del trabajo. Y conocí en el Pig Roast, en beneficio del Miami-Dade County PBA y del Love Fund, hace un par de meses atrás, al detective Dani Morales, que nos acompaña en el día de hoy. Dani me dijo, oye, Enrique, me hace falta tu ayuda para hablar acerca de esta organización que he hecho con el sargento Brandon Espinosa. Y juntos queremos hacer el cambio. Y están aquí los dos. Bienvenidos. Vamos a hablar de esto. Primordialmente, vamos a comenzar contigo, Dani, como detective en el Departamento de Homicidio del Condado Miami-Dade. ¿Cuál es tu preocupación? ¿Por qué sentiste la necesidad de organizar este non-profit que se llama Bleeding Blue?
So Bleeding Blue was founded by my brother and I, essentially to raise money for law enforcement families injured and fallen in the line of duty. And then we transitioned slowly into a mental health aspect of the organization, whereas we still keep our main focus in raising funds for fallen officers and injured officers and even families that need our assistance. But we found a need as well to promote mental well-being within law enforcement itself.
So I did a post recently with Miami Police Chief Manny Morales, where I'm a reserve officer. And we talked about mental health. And a lot of people were surprised at the fact that he admitted, him being chief himself, that he talks on a regular basis to someone. And I got some of the comments that were like, oh, that sounds good. But if a police department finds out, or a supervisor finds out that one of their officers is going to talk to a psychiatrist, they're going to get all types of shit. What are your thoughts on that, Brandon?
I like to tell people all the time, especially I work more on the road, and I like to tell people that we run into that, like, we're just regular human beings, just like everybody else, Like, a lot of people see the uniform and they don't see the human being behind the badge, Like, we're all married, or a lot of us have had relationships and we have kids, and we go through our own issues, not to mention the number of traumatic incidents that we see on a daily basis, And I've had numerous conversations with the community where I've told them, I go, hey, look, like, we're not made in a lab, we're not a special breed of human. I was a guy just like you. I put in an application and here I am, So I welcome my guys, to call me when they're going through something, which is kind of how this spawned off. I had an officer that reached out to me, having gone through a very traumatic incident prior in the past, and something had kind of reignited that. There was a current event, and she felt the need to reach out to somebody. Last person I ever thought would ever call me. I've also gone myself to go see a therapist at points in my life. I'm somebody that's been divorced before, somebody that's, we've all gone through our fair stuff, and there's no shame in that. I think that we all go through it, and it's part of the human experience.
I think that's the main thing. There is a shame, no? Within specifically law enforcement, right? Because cops are supposed to be the tough ones. Los policías son los duros, los fuertes de la película, y pensar, un policía tiene que ir a hablar con un psicólogo, necesita, ¿qué es eso? Bueno, eso es parte de la realidad, lo que estás explicando. El policía es humano, igual que todos los demás, y tiene preocupaciones, y tiene sus relaciones, y sus altas y bajas, como bien acabas de explicar. También, ¿qué quieren lograr con esta organización? What do you guys want to accomplish with Bleeding Blue?
I think what we're trying to do right now is fill in the gaps wherever, there is several organizations out there that do very similar things as us. And the goal, when Brandon and I sat down and we were like, why don't we just join another organization? Why are we making our own? And it brought a lot of people started giving us feedback and telling us the same thing. And then what we came up with was, let's fill in those gaps. Let's raise money where these organizations are not raising money. If they're doing some certain type of event, we're going to do a different type of event. Let's hit the topics that people don't want to talk about. So if this whole mental health aspect thing and putting on a conference and promoting it and stuff like that, the larger organizations, maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe it's a political thing, and we're very open to just hitting those areas and making that change that we believe that needs to be done within our careers. At the end of the day, I have a very long career to go. Brandon's halfway through. Our stepdad did 30-something years. We see what what this does to our families and stuff, and we want to make that positive change.
And when you say brother and you say stepdads, you guys are stepbrothers.
So
or brothers just in blue.
Yeah.
We're brothers. So Danny and I have the same mom.
Same mom.
So
Okay,
we're
cool.
brothers, yeah. But our stepdad raised us. He's been in our lives since I was 8 and Danny was 4.
Law enforcement as well?
Yeah. City of Hialeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who else is in law enforcement?
Just,
Dad, you
no.
two.
Yeah, it was
just us two and him. Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
We just followed in his footsteps.
That's awesome. Thank you for your service. So, Mental Health Awareness Conference. This is the first one. Esta va a ser la primera conferencia de concientización de la salud mental. This is exclusively for law enforcement or first responders, or who are you inviting to this conference?
So it's open right now to first responders, and we're actually promoting, and we want the first responder themselves to bring their family members, their spouse, children that are of age, obviously, to listen to what the topics that are going to be spoken about, to better understand what their loved one is going through, and why maybe mom or dad is dealing with something traumatic, or why they have anxiety and depression, or a wife that goes home and doesn't understand why their husband is just wants to be alone sometimes. And the point is to get those topics spoken about and heard, so that you can have a better time at home, or even when you're off the clock.
And make things easier.
Absolutely.
Genial. O sea, esta conferencia está abierta no solamente para policías, bomberos, first responders, pero para su familia, sus hijos, sus parejas también, para que entiendan qué clase o sea, las presiones y las preocupaciones que tienen nuestros oficiales y nuestros first responders. It's not a normal 9-to-5 job. You try to explain it to people, honey, how was work today? Oh, it's fine. I got a raise. Fulanita got hired. They moved so-and-so to this new department. It was fantastic. I got a new office. And, when you're a homicide detective, or you're a sergeant working the road, and you pull up to, you're picking up bodies, and you're trying to figure out why they stabbed this person that looks like your loved one, or that could look like your brother or your sister or one of your kids, or you're going to a domestic violence where you see kids being abused, or all of a sudden you find yourself trying to save someone's life that had a heart attack, or these are all things. It's not the pleasant things. No son cosas bonitas que tú llegas a la casa. Oye, ¿qué hiciste hoy? Oh, buenísimo. Vi a 3 personas baleadas y vi un tipo que le metieron un cuchillo en el cuello. Y desafortunadamente estas son las presiones y las situaciones en cuales los policías se ven y ven estas cosas a diario, ¿no? Así que los aplaudo a los dos porque están haciendo y están llenando un vacío, como bien Dani acabas de explicar, donde no que otras organizaciones no lo están haciendo bien hecho. Ustedes se están enfocando en una cosa donde ven el vacío, ven la oportunidad de que aquí podemos ayudar, y los felicito. Mental Health Awareness Conference. Esto va a ser el 20 de julio en el FIU, en el campus principal, ahí al lado del Turnpike. Si vas a bleedingblue.info, ahí tienes toda la información acerca de cómo te puedes unir, si quieres estar presente. De nuevo, esto es no solamente para policías y bomberos, pero para sus familiares, sus hijos, cualquiera que trabaje con un oficial que quiere mejor entender o quiere mejorar, o quizás seas un spouse, seas la pareja de uno de nuestros first responders y te estás dando cuenta de que tu pareja necesita algo más, necesita hablar de este tipo de cosas, y quizás no tiene que llegar al nivel de un psicólogo, quiere hablarlo entre sus peers, entre sus amistades. Esta es una excelente oportunidad. Bleedingblue.info, y aquí en todas las redes sociales. Si nos estás escuchando, lo puedes ver también en todas mis redes sociales también. Puedes seguir a Bleeding Blue también en Instagram, _, _ Bleeding Blue, todo junto, Bleeding Blue. En todas mis redes sociales vas a tener toda esta información. Bleeding Blue, non-profit organization with the mission to raise awareness, appreciation, and funds for South Florida law enforcement families. Anything else you guys like to add, Danny, Brandon?
No, just kind of to piggyback off of what you guys were talking about with the mental health, and like how you said, sometimes guys want to speak to somebody more like an officer rather than psych services. That's actually one of the reasons that we started this, because we realized that too, that a lot of guys see us as just like You know, we're no different than the same guy who you saw at roll call.
Right.
You know, the guy that you were, you know, joking around with at the end of the call the other day or whatever. I'm still the same guy. You can call me. And when we sat down with our psych services, we presented that idea to them. You know, we're like, we want to work in tandem with you. It's not that we're trying to replace you or anything like that, but what works for one person might not work for the next.
How'd they accept that?
No, they were very open to it. You know, they understand that at the end of the day, we have the same goal. You know, and I myself, having been somebody that's gone to psych services, I still have a very good relationship with them, and that may work for some people, but some people may not like that.
Right.
You know, and we found that people calling us. I've had people's spouses call me and say, hey, you know, I think my husband's going through X, Y, and Z, and then I have to sit here and try to come up with like, all right, how do I approach this guy without like telling him I have insider information.
Right.
You know, but I think that's what kind of separates us from maybe some other organizations where we're still boots on the ground. You know, we've got a lot of sweat equity in this. You know, where Danny and I are the ones here that we do everything. We design the shirts, we design the coins. We're out there at all the events. We're the ones that drive the trailer to the events. Like it's us, and we have an amazing support staff and our board of directors and stuff behind us. But it's us. We're still a very like mom and pop size organization.
I mean, Brandon, I think he disclosed the fact that he's gone to psych services, right? But on the other hand, I told psych services, I'll never go to you guys. And I think you talked about it earlier. You know, is there a lack of trust between?
Yeah, why wouldn't you, Danny?
Talking to somebody or
¿Por
going
qué?
to, you know, there's no specific reason. I just feel like I think you mentioned it earlier. Maybe that stuff will get disclosed to the police department. Maybe it might put me out of my job where I can't afford my bills now and stuff like that because now they're gonna relieve me of duty or put me on light duty. You know,
And this is a real concern with amongst police officers.
absolutely, 100%. So, you know, what we've found out while exploring this is that there's different peer support teams that are out there. There's private clinicians that are opening their doors to law enforcement specifically, you know, at a cheaper cost or accepting their insurance or whatnot. There's organizations that have started different apps, wellness apps, you know, peer support that you can call online. You don't even know who you're talking to on the other line, but it's a police officer on the other line. It's a first responder on the other line, you know, and you know it's finding those resources that are available to us that we may not know about.
And I think it's fantastic because of the fact that, you know, you guys are both brothers. You have two different ways of thinking about this, but all with the same goal, which is helping others, right? To deal with stuff that it's a lot of shit that no human being should be having to figure out all on their own. Sometimes we need other people, and there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I need help."
Absolutely.
You know, our men and women in uniform in Harold's a Marine, and he's lost a couple close people to suicide. So these are, you know, and Harold's always told me, shit, you know, if we just had that opportunity, if I was just there to have that conversation, I could have convinced, you know, him not to do that, not to hurt himself. So I think this is, again, very difficult conversations to have, but very necessary.
Right. I think it's I saw a statistic one time, and don't quote me on the exact numbers, but it says the average person goes through, I believe it was less than 5 traumatic incidents in their life, and a police officer could go through 100 in a year. You know, so there's a lot of intake, and I think as a profession, now is when we're kind of getting around to, well, how do we let go of that? Where do we place all that traumatic energy? Because for years it's always been the stigma where we just take it in, and like you said, we're supposed to be the bravado of society. You know, we're supposed to be nothing bothers me. We show up, we clean it, and you do get desensitized after a while. You know, the number of years that you're on the job, but it still affects you.
Of
you
course,
know, there's nothing normal about.
Well, and if you don't do something positive with that energy, you end up taking that energy out on the public that you're serving, on your family, or on yourself.
Oh, it has a negative, everything, it just bundles up together, and it's all a negative consequence at the end of the day. So we've been promoting, you know, reach out to us, talk to us at the end of the day. If it's a Saturday night, if it's a Sunday morning, whatever it is, you know, just call us at the end of the day. Like Brandon said, we're both, it's just Joe Schmo is how I've always said this, you know. We're just both regular officers on the road. We don't have any rank. Brandon's a sergeant, but you're not up there. You're not the chief of police where you can't call us. And even if I were to get to the chief of police spot or the director of Miami-Dade Police one day, maybe that's my goal, you can still call me at the end of the day. And that's what we want to accomplish here is that reciprocal vulnerability is huge. You know, being able to talk to each other. If I'm open to talking about my issue, maybe you'll open up to that next person, and then just continue that cycle.
Well, guys, congratulations. Danny, I told you since we met, count me in with whatever it is you guys are doing.
Appreciate it.
Pueden contar conmigo, con mi show, con mis micrófonos siempre. Mental Health Awareness Conference, the Bleeding Blue Mental Health Awareness Conference, July 20th at FIU. More info at bleedingblue.info, bleedingblue.info. De nuevo, si tienes algún familiar que es policía, que necesita ayuda, si tú eres un familiar y quieres mejor entender a tu pareja o a tu ser querido también, esta es una conferencia que es única y también esto es para ti también. Mental Health Awareness Conference, 20 de julio at FIU, bleedingblue.info. Danny, Brandon, thank you for your service and thank you for a beautiful and much needed and necessary cause.